Joining me now to talk about this is Miriam Weaver and Amy Jo Clark, co-founders, I should say, of chicksontheright.com. Ladies, it's great to have you with me.
Hi. Good morning.
All right. Well, Miriam, let's start with you. What should the GOP response be? There's a lot of debate about this right now. Should they take on the president? Should they do this through passing their own legislation? What do you think is the best way for the GOP to tell the president not so fast?
Yeah, I think that they should actually start passing some legislation. What we've talked about on our website is the fact that the reason that there's an incentive for illegal immigrants to come here is because there's work for them to do. And the reason that there's work for them to do is because the penalties against employers who hire them are not nearly harsh enough. So to us, that would be a really great starting point, is to make it, to remove that incentive for people to come in the first place.
And then also, if we could secure the border, that would be really nice. I don't know why that's been so difficult for everybody to do on either side of the aisle, but that would be that's something that we are proponents of.
Well, Mary Jo, to your point, there have been folks who said, you know, it's too late already. The House, even though, you know, the Senate's going to take over, or the Republicans are going to take over the Senate in January, but the House could yesterday or Monday pass a bill saying this is what it looks like. We want a border security bill. Are you disappointed that they haven't done that yet?
Yes.
I mean, they've done other border security bills, but something new.
Yeah, well, they need to, because at this point, there's no other alternative. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with all these ideas about trying to punish the president. I mean, I would love that, but I don't think it's realistic. I think it harms the party right now to do those kinds of things. What we need to do are more constructive and proactive things that actually target the problem and target less the president and his childish behavior, because there's nothing we can do about that.
Well, it seems like it makes common sense to me, but you still have folks in the Republican Party saying that, look, if we don't hold the line here on this issue and we don't attack the president and push back against him, that we're being a bunch of squishes. I'll borrow a phrase there. What do you think about that tactic?
I think you can push back and still be proactive. I think you can do the same thing. I just think you can show strength, push back, and then still, you know, come up with more legislation or better legislation that says, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do that's actually constructive. Because when you hear stuff like, you know, the government's going to shut down, we're like, how is that going to help? That's not going to help anybody.
Well, it might help. It might help the president, and some folks have even whispered that he kind of would welcome impeachment proceedings.
Yeah, well, he's taunting them. I mean, if you watched him in his earlier press conferences about it, he's literally taunting the Republicans to do those kinds of things, which is why they can't fall into that trap.
This is a scenario this administration has used in the past when they don't have a real option in terms of a legitimate way to work with Congress to get legislation passed. They've kind of done these types of tactics which have the tendency to hijack the entire conversation. Now, we've seen the GOP kind of, at least in the public's mind, get bogged down in this before. Do you guys feel any more confident that they've learned from prior mistakes and that that'll change this time around?
Gosh, I hope so. I really, really hope so. I hope that we would learn, you know, from the past. But hope is a strong word, right?
Well, we tried hope once, right? Didn't necessarily work out so well.
And change.
It's hard to be optimistic.
It really
want to be, but it's hard.
It really is. And I don't think we're alone in that. I mean, I think there are a lot of people, as evidenced by people that come to our Facebook page and our site, and people that, you know, our readers and our listeners that we have. I don't think we're the only ones that feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, and there is still a lot of uncertainty on behalf of the American people what the right way to go through this. A lot of folks, at least the nation seems to be split as to whether or not this is the right way to move forward. And right before we saw the midterm elections, a response telling President Obama, this is not necessarily how we want to do this, but I guess the ball is in Congress's court right now. At least we'll be in January to answer back to see what the president's going to do. Miriam Weaver, Amy Jo Clark, Chicks on the Right. So good to have you guys with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, real quick, we're going to have you guys back. We're going to talk a little bit more about this administration and their immigration policies and some other things going on right now when we return. America's Forum continues to roll on. John Bachman sitting in for J.D. Hayward today. We'll be back with the Chicks on the Right after this commercial break. As I mentioned, Miriam Weaver and Amy Jo Clark, co-founders of chicksontheright.com, are continuing our conversation. Guys, let's talk about Obamacare a little bit. Jonathan Gruber, what do you expect to learn, and do you expect to get any information out of him when he does testify before the House Oversight Committee?
Maybe we'll get more videos. I don't know. I mean, we've gotten how many videos are there now?
I lost count, I think, at 5.
Yeah. I think there's 6 now. It's 5 or 6, so maybe more videos. The only thing that I think that we'll learn from him is just about more deception in this administration and how they duped us and how they dupe the American people.
I think we'll see more of the same, which is his clear contempt for Americans. Unfortunately, what he said in those videos about the stupidity of the American voter was absolutely correct. He and the rest of this administration relied on liberal stupidity to get people to vote in favor of all the people that would vote in favor of Obamacare. So we've proven them right. American voters have proven that they did not listen to all the cues and all the warnings that conservatives like us and so many others were shouting from the rooftops about the dangers of Obamacare. Instead, they went like sheep to the polls and they voted for the people that voted this stuff in.
And for years, they've been mad at people like us saying, you're idiots for even thinking that they are on your side in this healthcare game. You're morons. And he's saying the same thing, and now all of a sudden, he's a bad guy for actually saying behind the scenes what we've been saying all along. You're going to get duped.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine, consider how many times and how many videos have surfaced now. This is not just one guy who believes this way. Everybody who worked on this behind closed doors, this is the way they talked about the American voter collectively. And I'm sure it's not just limited to this particular case. This happens at a lot of different closed door meetings in Washington.
Yeah, but he's the scapegoat. They're throwing him under the bus because, we didn't say that. Obama and all of his buddies, we didn't say any of that.
Yeah, who's that Gruber guy?
Oh, yeah. We have no idea who this guy is, right?
Well, I don't think too many people believe that. Again, the things that this president says from a podium carry less and less weight every single day. But, Gruber's this guy. And one thing I think was kind of frustrating for me is a lot of these videos that surfaced were years old and they were out there kind of in the public arena, and they were not talked about all those years ago. And it's just, you wish this stuff had come up sooner.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is I keep wondering, who are the people left in America that still support it, that still, knowing how they were duped, continue to believe in and support the very people that put this all into place? I'm like dumbfounded that there are those people that still exist.
But well, there are those people out there, and we've heard these anecdotal stories about people with existing conditions who have been able to get coverage somehow. I know their stories are rare, and also a lot of parents out there who have kids who are still looking for work in this terrible economy for that particular demographic who are able to keep their kids on their insurance plan up until the time they're 26. These are ideas that Republicans have talked about passing as alternatives to Obamacare. Is it too little, too late for the GOP to pass its own replacement for this? We have a lot of ideas out there on the table, a lot of plans being talked about, but not one singular unifying alternative yet.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Now that Republicans control both houses, unfortunately, they still have a president who's going to do anything he can to not let them change or make modifications to Obamacare as it is, which it obviously needs a complete overhaul. All they can do is continue to put forth legislation and try. And then the more they do that, I think that the public will hopefully start to see, listen, there's ways that we can go about fixing this. There's lots of ideas out there. This is not a party without a plan.
Because there are plans. There are plans out there.
There are a lot of plans, guys, and we'll have to leave it there, but not one plan. That's what some folks might say is a problem. Miriam Weaver, Amy Jo Clark, thanks so much for being with us, guys. We look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
All right, the Chicks on the Right. You can find them at chicksontheright.com. We're back. You can find us at newsmaxtv.com. We're back with more after this.